What's going on, guys? Hope you're having an amazing day today. My name is Steve. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. Today, I'm going to be reacting to the top 10 British conspiracy theories. You know, I've probably heard of most of the popular American conspiracy theories, but I don't think I've ever heard of any British conspiracy theories, at least that I know of. Obviously, I'm sure that both Americans and British people share the same international conspiracy theories. I can't really think of many of those off the top of my head. There's a few that I can think of. For example, there is just this really odd conspiracy theory that birds aren't real. I don't understand how that works. I don't understand where that conspiracy theory came from, but I believe that is an international conspiracy theory. An American conspiracy theory would be that Lee Harvey Oswald was not a lone gunman when it came to the JFK assassination back in the 60s. That is a conspiracy theory that I think actually does have a little bit of a credibility. I've actually done a little bit of research on that one, and yeah, it's an interesting one. And so I can understand why some conspiracy theories are believed, but others seem just over the top. I recently heard of a conspiracy theory where people believe that it's something to do with, like, they believe that the government's put oxygen in our atmosphere to age us or make us sick or something like that. And I'm just like, I don't understand where a conspiracy theory like that come from. I don't understand how that has any credibility at all. But other conspiracy theories, like the JFK assassination, it's easy to see how some of these conspiracy theories do have some level of credibility. So I don't really care what people believe. If you believe something that I completely don't understand, you know what? Maybe you have some sort of piece of information that I just haven't found yet. And so, I think that, I just let everybody believe what they want to believe, no matter how weird it might seem to me. As for me, I enjoy conspiracy theories. I just think they're fun. I think it's really interesting to I put it in the same category as kind of the paranormal in a way. I love the mysterious. I love, puzzles and just hidden secrets and just all sorts of things like that. I just think that type of thing is really fun. Obviously, like I'm saying, some conspiracy theories are just over the top and they just don't make any sense. But some actually do have some level of credibility. You know, there's obviously throughout the last 50 or 60 years, there's been numerous things that were at one point a conspiracy theory or were thought to be a conspiracy theory that have came true, that have actually, have ultimately been the truth. And a lot of those have to do with our government's lying to us, because I think the vast majority of people here would agree with me that you can't 100% trust the government. They are known to lie to us on a regular basis. I mean, just for example, the American CIA, so many documents have been released over the last 10 or 20 years that have just shown how many horrible things our own governments have done to us in secret, that at one point they said that people that believed these were conspiracy theorists, but those people that believed that were actually had the truth the whole time. And so I think you got to take conspiracy theory, you got to take it with a grain of salt, but you also got to keep yourself open-minded enough to understand that some things that might seem like conspiracy theory today might one day actually turn out to be true. You just never know. But some of these, like I'm saying, are a little over the top. For example, the fact that birds don't exist. You know what? If you believe that, that's cool, man. You do you. I'd love to hear you explain to me how birds don't exist, because I haven't really looked into that one that deep. I know the surface level of birds supposedly don't exist. I can't really quite understand how they don't, because I've held a bird. I see them outside. Things like I was saying, the one about the oxygen is actually bad for us, and the governments are somehow hiding that from us. That one doesn't make any sense to me. But anyways, guys, I just love this. I think this is going to be a very interesting list. Really, really curious about what some of you guys in the UK believe. has happened in secret? And what are some of these British conspiracy theories that we might find interesting? So anyways, guys, enough rambling. Let's go ahead and dive in and check this out.
For this list, we're ranking the strangest, most significant, and most popular conspiracy theories, which are predominantly based on people, places, events, and things in the UK.
The press claim that you claim to be the Son of God. Mm-hmm. Is that true?
Yes, you see, the thing is that it's quite funny, really.
Number 10. Louis Tomlinson's fake baby. As part of one of the world's biggest boy bands, Louis Tomlinson is used to intense public scrutiny. However, when he became a dad in 2016, the hysteria hit another level. #Babygate erupted on social media, and followers tried to prove that Louis' son wasn't real, with the validity of various photos examined and offered as evidence. The reason for the fake? Theories range from it giving Tomlinson an easy out from the group to it being an elaborate cover-up of his relationship with Harry Styles. Number 9.
Okay, I have no idea who that is and what band he's in. I've never heard of him before, so I don't really have much to add to that because I wouldn't even know where to begin. But yeah.
The disappearance of Richie Edwards.
I don't think any band is established. Most bands got a career of maybe 3 or 4 years, then they fade into oblivion.
As lyricist and guitarist for Manic Street Preachers and a frank and open speaker on depression and self-harm, Richie Edwards was already a cult icon when he disappeared in 1995. Investigators surmised that he'd committed suicide by jumping from the Severn Bridge, but his official status wasn't changed from missing person to presumed dead until 2008. And there have been plenty of supposed sightings. From India to the Canary Islands, some fans still believe that Richie faked his death to escape his fame. Number 8.
Well, I've never heard of him before, but it wouldn't necessarily surprise me to hear that someone faked their death. I mean, that's happened many times in the past. Now, someone that was very famous, it would obviously be much harder to get away with that because eventually people would see you and whatnot. So it sounds like at first they said he jumped off of did they say a bridge or a building? So it would be interesting that they never found the body. I guess it depends on where that body of water goes to. Does it go out into the ocean or something like that? I'm not really sure because I don't know that story. But who knows? I've never heard of that before, so don't really have much to add to that one either.
Chaucer was assassinated. Anyone who's wrestled with the Canterbury Tales at school might feel a smidge aggrieved with Chaucer, but some suggest the pioneering poet was actually the victim of a murder plot. The idea mostly comes from a book by Terry Jones, who's better known for Monty Python. True, Jones puts a comical spin on the concept, but there is very little known about Chaucer's death. His name just stops appearing in records. Ominous, mysterious, or fabricated, you decide.
We walk in the garden of his turbulence!
Number 7. The Bisley Boy. To Tudor times and the Virgin Queen. Or should that be King? It all starts with Bram Stoker, who included the Bisley Boy legend in his book Famous Impostors. So the story goes, Princess Elizabeth visited Bisley in the 1540s to escape the plague in London. But she died anyway. Her governess replaced Liz with a lad in a bid to escape the famous wrath of her father, Henry VIII.
I am no man's Elizabeth.
It worked and the arrangement stuck. Remember, she was famous for her wig collection. And there was no post-mortem when she died. Number 6.
All right, that was interesting. That's the first person that they talked about that I know of. I haven't really looked into her, but I've heard of her and whatnot. Definitely on the list to kind of explore some of the old queens and kings throughout British history. But that's interesting. So the conspiracy goes that she died and was replaced with a guy. That's interesting. Makes me want to go back and look at some of her portraits. But it wouldn't surprise me if that wasn't true. But guess there's really no way to know for sure. But yeah, Britain's Roswell. Okay, that's interesting.
Britain's Roswell.
Flying objects? It beggars belief.
Alien theories are typically an American expertise, but why shouldn't a UFO rock up in the UK? Suffolk's Rendlesham Forest was front page news in December 1980 when it played host to a series of unexplained lights and noises. Multiple sightings were reported, with most coming from nearby RAF Woodbridge, which housed the US Air Force at the time.
My personal feeling is it was some type of a mothership or bigger entity or something.
From flashing signals to scorched trees, supposed landing spots, and continuous light beams, it ticked every extraterrestrial box. But still, no little green men, unfortunately.
Don't be afraid.
Number 5.
It's interesting. In the U.S., I don't know anything about the UFO phenomenon in other countries. I mean, I've seen a few stories here or there, but I haven't really looked into it, really. That'd be something I'd kind of be interested in checking out. How often is it? Do you guys hear about UFOs in the UK? Do they generally seem to show up in certain areas more than others? In the US, for some reason, it's always around Air Force bases, generally speaking. Isn't that interesting? Now, I don't know. Like I'm sure everybody knows of Area 51. I mean, that general area, the Nevada, Arizona desert areas, is a hotbed for activity, kind of in the general vicinity of Area 51, but not just there. It seems like UFOs tend to congregate around Air Force bases. And so you have to wonder if that's, advanced military technology that is being used. I mean, I've seen, today we definitely have the technology that we know of to do a lot of what you see in UFOs, like, going straight up from the ground into the sky, for example, instead of having to take off like a plane. You look at what Tesla can do with landing a rocket supposedly straight down on the ground. So I don't know. It's just really interesting how it tends to be around Air Force bases in the U.S. But let me know, where do UFOs congregate at in the UK, and how often is it they're seen? Because it does seem to be, and maybe this is because it's just me with the American perspective and I mostly look at American things, but it seems like the vast majority of stories I hear about UFOs are in America. Maybe it's because America, the country is really large, and so there's a lot more space to have things like that happen or something. I don't know, but I'd be interested to know if any of you have any stories about that, and do they seem to congregate around military bases in the UK as well? Let me know.
The Kingdom of the Lizard People.
The Lizard People.
Destroy him? Go. Take him to the cages.
To a global conspiracy born in England and perhaps one of the world's wildest theories. David Icke was a BBC sports pundit before his career took a dramatic change of direction in the early 90s. Having appeared on Wogan and suggesting he was a descendant of God, Icke set about uncovering the truth of our existence, concluding that we are controlled by a race of shape-shifting Illuminati reptilians. From the royal family to world leaders, bankers, broadcasters and celebrities, there's a select few pulling all the strings. Number 4.
Now, I've heard a little bit about that conspiracy theory, that all the main leaders in the world are reptilian or something. That one is one that I can't quite comprehend either. But hey, if you want to tell me about it, please feel free to do so. I'm more than willing to hear people out on their beliefs, whatever those beliefs may be.
Titanic never sank.
Titanic never sank.
Iceberg, right ahead!
Then what happened to it?
More than 1,500 people perished on Titanic in 1912, but some say it never sank at all. Or at least that particular ship didn't. Publishing in 1998, shortly after James Cameron's blockbuster, Robin Gardner proposes that the doomed vessel was really its sister ship, Olympic, which was subject to a massive insurance claim. As the ships were almost identical, the swap would have been easy. While another theory says that JP Morgan arranged the disaster to eliminate his rivals who were travelling on board, controversy continues to surround the story.
Are you sure the ship will sink?
I can assure you the ship will sink, as it has 1,000 times before. It is unsinkable.
Number 3.
Now, I have heard the JP Morgan conspiracy theory before, but I had never heard the possibility of a ship switch here. So I'm not familiar with the Olympus or I've heard of that, but I'm not familiar with that ship. Can't even remember the name. Was it Olympus or Olympic? I don't know. But did they look very similar to each other? Because if they didn't, I don't see how, we can see what it looks like, what's left of the Titanic. So, but either way, I have heard the JP Morgan one before. The theory is something like, I can't remember exactly how it goes, but this was 1912. And it basically has something to do with, that's basically 1913 is when they met and created the current income tax system in the U.S. And so there's something to do with that. I'd have to go back and look at that. It's been a while since I've heard that one, but I know bits and pieces of it. Anyway, let's continue.
Shakespeare didn't write his plays.
Copy it, hand it round, learn it, speak it, back before curtain up. And remember, kid, project eyes and teeth. You never know. The Queen might turn up.
He's one of history's best known Britons, but could Shakespeare be a sham? Some say he couldn't possibly have penned his plays, with the likes of Mark Twain and Sigmund Freud suggesting that other writers probably responsible. Citing Shakespeare's modest background, discrepancies between his signatures and similarities with other poets, the naysayers believe that the bard was but a front. Christopher Marlowe or Francis Bacon are the most popular alternatives. To believe or not to believe, that is the question.
Oh, and just one more thing. Yeah. That is for every schoolboy and schoolgirl for the next 400 years.
Number 2.
Hey, was that what's his name? Mr. Bean what's his last name? Rowan? Is it Rowan? Was that him? I think that is. I've never seen him that I know of play any other part than Mr. Bean. So if that's him, and I think it is, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was really interesting to see him in that role there, because that's definitely not what I expect from Mr. Bean, obviously. But, something like that, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, well, I won't say it wouldn't surprise me, but, people do ghostwrite. So that's something that's happened throughout history. It would be surprising, obviously, if it turned out that Shakespeare had other people writing his stuff, but I doubt that's true, but you never know. I mean, I don't know. Who knows?
Well, for the next 400 years.
Number 2, Paul is dead.
So this started some rumor that because he was barefooted, he's dead.
A hotbed for conspiracy theorists, some say the Fab Four never existed at all, that they were just a conveyor belt of trendy actors. But the best Beatles theory centres on Paul, who supposedly died in a car crash in 1966. Paul was then replaced with the winner of a lookalike contest to avoid the agony of fans. Subscribers to the legend say clues are hidden in lyrics and on album covers, or they're heard when certain Beatles tracks are played backwards. Perhaps it's time to let it be. Number 1.
All right, so that would be hard. I mean, they were so popular that I would feel like if they were replaced, I mean, they would have to replace them with twins. How in the world would that even possible? Because, I mean, do you know how many people, especially back in their heyday, how many young women were paying absolute attention to the whichever one of those that they idolized the most? I mean, they were constantly looking at them, right? So, like, I can't imagine that would have been possible. That's one of those. It's like, I guess anything is possible, right? Anything is possible, but that wouldn't. I don't know, man. That would be really, really hard. And I don't quite understand what he said there. Like, some people believe they didn't ever exist in the first place, and it was just a conveyor belt of actors. All right. Well, I don't see how that could be possible, but I guess you never know. The death of Princess Diana.
The death of Princess Diana.
Diana, Princess of Wales, has in fact been killed in that car accident in Paris.
Diana's death shocked the world in August 1997. The cries of conspiracy were almost immediate. Accusations of murder were aimed at MI6 and parts of the royal family, with questions raised over a lack of CCTV, an unusually slow journey to the hospital, and a white hatchback seemingly involved in the crash but never seen again. The owner of the car committed suicide 3 years later. The motive? Diana's supposed engagement to the Egyptian producer Dodi Fayed, according to Dodi's father, at least.
They cleared the decks, they finished her, they murder her, and now he is happy. He married his crocodile wife.
Do you agree with our pick?
Oh, wow. For the Princess Diana conspiracy theory, I watched a video about Princess Diana a while back. I can't remember what exactly it was, but it was talking about bits and pieces of her life, I believe. And I remember it touched on that briefly, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe I've heard that at some point. I don't know everything about it, but I do know that there was a conspiracy theory around her death, and a lot of things, were because it took a long time to get her to the hospital and stuff like that. But, I have no idea. That's something I'd have to look into much more, because I haven't really looked at everything surrounding her death. It reminds me of there's a lot of people, a lot of celebrities, in the U.S., one of those come to mind was Tupac. And then there were numerous like singers and actors and stuff, that Elvis Presley. A lot of people want these people to be alive, after they die. They don't want to believe, because they were such big fans. They don't want to believe that they're dead. They want to hope that they're in hiding or something, or they look for other reasons why they would have died, or it's really interesting, but this is an interesting list, guys. I must say, a number of these, especially the first few, I don't know any of those people, so it's hard for me to even comment on those, but very interesting nonetheless. I enjoy conspiracy theories because they're fun. It's fun to think about the possibilities of stuff happening in secret, mysteries. Who doesn't love a good mystery? But some of these were like, I don't know it doesn't really make much sense. Others are like, that's possible. For example, Shakespeare, is it possible someone wrote his stuff? It's possible. Now, does it mean that it's probable? No. But does it mean it's possible? Yeah. All that's possible. Pretty most of these conspiracy theories are, I guess, possible, but are they probable? Like, for example, is it probable that the Beatles were actually a conveyor of actors? No, that's not very probable. It's highly unlikely. You would literally have to find, like, they said conveyor belt. So that means that there were many, many times replacing these people, right? And if that was the case, how many people do you have to have be almost identical? But from the conspiracy side of things, they would be like, no, because people wouldn't be expecting this change with the Beatles. So even if they did look slightly different, the people themselves wouldn't be able to see it. Almost like the reticular activating system in your brain, which basically, for example, the reticular activating system in my brain worked the other day when I did that video on the Mini. I had never seen a Mini here. And lo and behold, the day after I did that video, I went to the store and I pulled in front of a Mini. And I'm like, what are the odds? I've never seen this before, and I see it now. And the reason for that is because the reticular activating system of my brain was not looking for that car, because it didn't think anything of it. It never saw it really. And so my brain was, because your brain basically has so much information it has to process that it has to block out things that aren't of importance. And so that's how all of a sudden, for example, if you're like, I'm going to get a new car and I'm going to get this new car. All of a sudden, you may have never noticed that car on the road before, but all of a sudden you see them everywhere. And it can be the same thing for example, maybe you get a new job and you need to wear a suit, right? And you're not used to wearing a suit. And so now you need to go and buy a suit. And before, you never noticed anybody in suits, but now everywhere you go, you notice people in suits. And that's because your reticular activating system is now looking for this piece of information around you because it's of importance to you. And so I think that could, in some cases, be what could go on with a situation like the Beatles thing. Do I think that's what happened there? No, I don't. I think the Beatles have always been the same people. Granted, I don't know much about the Beatles. I need to actually look into them because they are a very popular British band. But just saying that, you know, I always like to play devil's advocate. I always like to look at things from both sides. No matter how much I believe something is probably not the case, I still like looking from the other side because, you know, it's always good to get as much information about something as possible. And one of the explanations for, you know, how someone couldn't notice a change like that in the Beatles, I keep on going back to them because that one's really interesting, would be someone's reticular activating system, because they're not expecting the change. They're not looking for the change. Their brain is not going to notice certain subtle differences in the look of the individual. And so, yeah, is that probably correct? No, but the reticular activating system is a very, very real thing. Very interesting. If you've never looked into it, worth doing a little bit of research, because it is fascinating. How our brains, you know, they have to. I mean, it's so much information you have to take in every day, more than you would ever imagine, and so your brain could not handle all the information, so it has to block out things. It has to block out things and then only show you the things, or bring to your attention or your awareness the things that are of importance to you. But anyways, guys, enough of my rambling. This was interesting. I'd like to know if you believe any of these, and if so, please let me know in the comments why you believe some of these. And I'd also like to know what other conspiracy theories are popular in the UK. And I'd also like to know, has anything that used to be conspiracy theories within the UK, maybe from the British government or something like that, later on been shown to be true? That's definitely happened in the US. Our CIA has lied to us countless times. And then later on, decades later, the paperwork comes out that showed that they were lying and other people were telling the truth about that the entire time. But this is fascinating, guys. Just please share anything you want to about this. Please leave your recommendations in the comments. But thank you so much for stopping by, guys. Please click that like button. Feel free to drop your comments or suggestions about this video or others. And don't forget to subscribe to continue to follow me on my journey to discover my British and Irish ancestry. Until next time, guys. Peace.